Hey folks, Pat here from DNS, and this Madison area fishing report is current as of Friday, May 16th. Well, happy Friday, everybody. We made it through another week. We do have a bunch of stuff to talk about, so we'll just get right into it here. Casting for Kids is this weekend. So, of course, I mentioned this in many of my reports the last couple of months, and it's just an awesome event benefiting the Carbone Cancer Center and the UW Children's Hospital. I don't know if you can still register for the event, but if you want to support this awesome cause, you can, of course, log on to casting the number 4kids.org and donate. Otherwise, they do have an auction here, too, where you can click on, especially if you're into hockey stuff, you can score some really cool, like, autographed jerseys and, like, game packages and stuff like that have been donated. So log on and check that out. Otherwise, like I said, this is a great event. Thanks to all the guides who stepped up to offer their boats to take folks out. I believe they have all of their boats filled. So 80 boats they have in this event, and yeah, like I said, benefits a great cause. We are proud to be a sponsor of this event because they really are doing great work. Thanks to everybody that puts in all the hard work setting up the event, and good luck to all the anglers on Saturday. Um, we also want to let you know about the Yahara Fishing Club. Awesome group of folks. Has their kids fishing day right behind the shop here in the Warner Lagoon at the Rainbow Shelter, May 31st. So that's 2 Saturdays from now, 9 a.m. to noon. I can't say enough good things about this event. First 300 kids that show up get a free fishing rod. I'm happy to provide the bait for the event. Of course, they have members of the club there, experts on hand to show you, what's up if you need a little help catching fish. And then at the end of the event, they have hot dogs and soda, chips and all that, lunch for the kids. And yeah, like I said, the kids walk away with the rod. And what a great way to get kids into fishing. So thanks again to the Yahara Fishing Club and all they do for fishing in the Madison area. I guess what else? A little bit of shop news. We'll talk about leeches. I have leeches. They're large. I'm selling them as larges. There's a few like panfish size in there, but I don't count those when I count on a dozen. So swing in and get some leeches. I'd say the jumbos will be here maybe like Memorial Day-ish. So you'll just, stay posted on the reports if you really want the biggest of the bigs. But we got leeches, and everything that swims loves a leech. I made a post earlier this week about willy worms. We got all your favorite colors in stock. Big shouts to my guy Jason who pours these. Did a great job. And we have a new one. So gold glitter here. Gold works for many, many things. And so I asked Jason to pour a gold glitter willy worm, and I've sent these out with a couple guys, and apparently they work great. So yeah, swing in and check those out. The other big news here is that our very own Harley, who many of you know, he's behind the counter here a lot while I'm off running around doing my stuff. Great guy, very talented angler, very talented fly tyer, is dipping his toe into the world of guiding. So he picked up his guide license. I don't have any pictures. I know he'll guide for muskies on the fly, and of course he's got some real nice fish here. But he is going to be guiding for any number of fish species on the fly. He's got, he's dipping his toe into this stuff, so he's got introductory rates. And he was mentioning that he wants to take folks out for the hex hatch. So the hex is like a very unique thing, very specialized time of year, usually mid-June, when these giant mayflies hatch at night. And you can see here, Harley goes out and catches these giant browns. You can see all the bugs flying around. So it's a very unique experience. And if you want to get the lowdown on the hex hatch and take advantage of Harley kind of learning the ropes at guiding, like I said, introductory rates there. And yeah, super proud of him for stepping into the guide world, and I'm sure he's going to do just a great job. Posters on the door. There's this event down at Bree Stevens Field, this Distill America. It's like craft hard liquor and stuff like that. So, and that's on May 31st. So maybe take the kids over to the kids fishing day. And if you're feeling super stressed out, you can go down and drink some hard alcohol at the where am I at here? At the Bree Stevens Field. Anyway, on June 6th, there's a great event up in Viroqua. The Driftless Anglers having like a full day of stuff. But Kalen Hoggard, local guy here, casting instructor, casting competitor, very talented caster, is hosting a casting competition, which we are happy to be a sponsor of. And so go up to Viroqua and have a fun day up there in a great part of the world. And Driftless Anglers, an awesome fly shop. And Kalen is going to be hosting this casting competition, and so you can try your best against some of the best that will be up there. And then I got a poster for the Kids Fishing Day, again, May 31st. I think that pretty much does it for shop news. We do have some tournaments this weekend. Of course, the Casting for Kids event is on Saturday, and like I said, I believe they have their 80 boats filled, but they do spread out across the whole chain, and they don't really like take over any one launch like a lot of tournaments do. So they'll be at the Alliance Center, and then they sort of disperse. So you might not even notice those folks out. And of course, that's just a fun tournament, so everybody's in a great mood. But there is another tournament on Saturday on Lake Mendota. I believe that's just a 20 boat tournament, but so they'll be out there as well. And then on Sunday, it looks like there's a 40 boat bass tournament on Mendota. And then on Monona and Wabisa, there is a 20 boat bass tournament down there. So just a heads up, you might see more folks out there than usual. And those tournament folks are, usually very polite and stay out of folks' way. So anyway, just a heads up there. Weather-wise, we had another beautiful week here in Madison with temps in the 70s and 80s. Some thunderstorms came through yesterday, but we didn't really get the rain that a lot of the weather folks were predicting. We had a bunch of wind and some hail, but a lot of that rain stayed here to the north and to the east. So, but we avoided a lot of the water. We could use some rain over here though, but looks like a bit of a cool down after tonight. And all the way through next week, it looks like temps barely crack 60 degrees, but some very comfortable temps to get out and enjoy some spring fishing. The Mendota buoy is reading 62 degrees near the surface, and of course cooler as you get deeper. But that surface temp is almost 10 degrees more than it was just a week ago, so it's quite a jump. But that just goes to show you what a warm week will do to those lake temperatures. And even though the water temps are warming up, shallow is still pretty much going to be the name of the game around town, generally speaking, for most species. Smallmouth bass are on beds in many shallow, rocky areas. Crappies are either on beds in shallow flats or just about to be. I've heard about some reports of largemouth bass and even some bluegills on beds in a few places, which is early for them. And most of those fish will really be showing up on beds in a couple weeks in good numbers. And I guess speaking of beds, even though it may be tempting, I would like to encourage folks to not keep any fish if they're fishing beds, so we can continue having such an outstanding fishery here in Madison. Otherwise, pan fishing around town's been good in most shallow areas, especially bays and inlets, with spikes, waxworms on an ice jig, redworms on maybe a little bigger jig, working well, under a bobber. If you can find, or you can find crappies in many same shallow areas, and like I said, they're moving up onto flats to spawn. Crappie minnows or a small minnow-shaped plastic under a jig or bobber is a pretty safe bet for those fish. Bass anglers have been doing well with any number of presentations: Ned rigs, chatterbaits, swim baits, lipless crankbaits, all working well. So just kind of take your pick there. Walleye anglers have been happy as well. The spawn, they don't successfully spawn here, but that action is over. But the fish are still up shallow and feeding, mostly during low light hours. A lot of folks from shore doing well, casting husky jerks or paddle tail swim baits. If you're trolling, it's a great time to troll for walleyes out there while the weeds are still down. Is a great option for finding fish. Otherwise, if you're just putting out live bait, extra large walleye fatheads we got here at the shop, blacktail chubs and suckers are working well. And of course, like I mentioned, we have leeches. And like I said, everything that swims loves a leech. Any of those live bait options, on a jig, drop shot, slip bobber can be super effective. And if it's pike you're after, they're pretty much everywhere, and anything you throw at them, they'll grab. You could probably throw a treble hook on your keys and catch a pike if you wanted. Don't forget about trout, though. This is really the best time of year to be out exploring some of the area trout streams. And, I'll talk about that like I do at the end of every report. I'll get into more detail. But, yeah, a lot of good trout action to be had out there. Up here on the north side, Cherokee's been, producing some good panfish as those fish move up there in there to spawn. Some good size on those fish. It hasn't been much of a numbers game. And now the weeds are coming in. I was up there on Wednesday night, and it's really just pocket fishing. If you're fishing from shore, you can still find some pockets. Otherwise, if you got a small watercraft, you can launch here at the school road launch and get up out into more of the channel area and find some more fishable water. And the bass action and pike action up there has been great. 113 Bridge area, the white bass action down there has slowed down quite a bit. The catfish remain the star of the show. The cut bait is still producing a lot of fish, although people are transitioning to night crawlers and also catching fish. And of course, you'll catch, you could catch random panfish, bass, walleye, pike, anything that moves through there quite a bit. Otherwise, if you got a boat and you want catfish, North Bay is where you want to be. And again, cut bait and crawlers are working well for those fish. Otherwise, Lake Mendota has been kind of tough this last week. A lot of complaints in the shop about the water being gross and brown and almost tannic looking. I've heard reports anywhere from red to even purple looking water. And then, of course, folks running into the blue-green algae blooms. So I kind of wanted to figure out what was going on, so I contacted the folks at the limnology department at UW, who are, by the way, just awesome folks. If you ever have a question about water quality or anything going on with the lakes, just hit them up, and they will contact you with all the details you need, and maybe even more. I mean, I asked what was going on with the brown water. Apparently, it's sort of a unusual, not very common algae bloom. So that's what's been going on. And the good news is that a couple days ago, I guess the zooplankton hatched and had a big hatch, and the zooplankton eat algae and then clear up the water. So the water has seen a pretty drastic increase in clarity in just the last couple days. But I'm not even going to try to pronounce the scientific name of the algae that is responsible for the mess, but it sounds like it's clearing up. So things should be good on Mendota, at least for the near future, until things get really gross again in the summer. But otherwise, on Mendota, if you're looking for panfish, inlets like Marshall Park, Spring Harbor, Dangles Bay, shallow bays like U Bay and North Bay should be full of panfish, either spawning or getting ready to spawn. Smallmouth bass on shallow rocky areas, walleye in there too, especially during low light hours. Um, what else we got? Pike are pretty much everywhere. The area around Tenney has been good. They've been getting a lot of fish, in particularly at night, casting off the breakwall here. Warner breakwall too at night, and city shoreline's been good. But the area below the lock and dam has good walleye and some nice bluegills coming out of there. White bass you might find. A lot of the fish, good fishing happening at low light hours. Same thing as you go down the river. Nice mixed bag of fish in there. And I've heard about some white bass backed up here at the outlet, or the mouth of where the Yahar dumps into Lake Monona. Down on Lake Monona, things have been interesting down there. The action has been pretty good, and the water's been very, very clear. Some of the pan fishing has been off, and I think the problem with that has been some of these lake fly hatches. So this is a guy, Ben, that I follow on Instagram, posted this. You can see just huge clouds of these lake flies, and some people confuse these with mayflies. They are definitely not mayflies. These are midges. Some people just call them mayfly or lake flies. And they're a relative of the mosquito, but they don't bite. And so they've been coming off, as you can see, in huge numbers. And the panfish take advantage of that, and of course are gorging themselves. So I've heard about people running into thousands and thousands of bluegills and not being able to get them to bite. But that's a short-lived thing, and there's a lot of bluegills out there, and they are hungry. So I've been hearing about good bluegill action in Weechobuck, formerly known as Squaw Bay. The Winnequa Lagoons, it sounds like action slowed over there. Cherville's been good, a lot of bluegills in there, as has Monona Bay, of course. Excellent bluegill fishing in there. And a lot of those fish are starting to move out to the Monona Terrace Wall out here, along with some crappies, which I've heard about some decent action. And you pick up some walleyes out there, too. Lake Winger's got a lot of tiny bluegills in, and the largemouth bass fishing's down there is great, or can be great. And the muskies, I've heard about a few muskies coming out there. Speaking of muskies, they have opened the area below the Winger Dam, which has been closed until today. Today's the first day that's open, so you can get down there. Usually some good action for any number of fish, but good panfish action in that little lagoony area down there. But let's see. Upper Mud's been good at the dredge hole. Good largemouth bass action in the flats around there. Lake Wabisa, I've heard about some gunky stuff kind of floating around out there, fouling up people's hooks, and then some filamentous algae, that slimy, gross stuff you get on your hooks. But other than that, I've heard about some great bluegill action up here on the north end, Lake Farm area. Crappies moving in there too, largemouth bass moving in. Same thing down on the south end, big shallow flat down there. That's where you're going to find a lot of your fish spawning this time of year. Also heard about some good crappie action along this southeast kind of shoreline here. Bible Camp, Rockford Heights, Babcock, and some walleye out there too in the rocky areas and breaks down in there. Down on Lake Kegonsa, a lot of good bluegill action up in the fish camp area where the river dumps in here. Big shallow flat up there. A lot of panfish move up there. You probably find some crappies too. Walleyes along Lake Kegonsa State Park in the rocky areas over there. Down on the Rock River, it sounds like the white bass are pretty much done. You might still find some at the dams, but not many at Indian Ford and Jefferson from what I hear. A lot of sheepshead in there if sheepshead are your thing. Otherwise, those fish are moving back downriver, so you can find them in deeper holes. And the walleye have also moved back downriver. A lot of them moving back out into Lake Koshkonong, where it's pretty much just going to be a trolling game out there because it's a big shallow flat lake for the rest of the summer. White bass have moved on. Like I said, same thing on the Wisconsin River. White bass that were stacked up at the dams are still up there in some numbers, as I understand, but a lot of small walleyes in there too, and a nice mixed bag at all the dams. Otherwise, on the river itself, smallmouth are in spawn mode, maybe even post spawn over here. I guess I'm not really sure. But look to deeper areas on the back ends of sandbars. Wood along shores, great. Otherwise, the dams are, now that we're getting into summer, just a nice mixed bag of fish at all the dams up and down the river. Lake Wisconsin itself, I haven't heard much in the way of walleye action, although it sounds like a lot of smaller fish, at least that I hear about. But the fish are starting to move back down into the lake after spawning, and all your shallow bays all around the lake have been producing some good panfish action up there. But same thing all the way up the river. Smallmouth are going to be hungry, spawning or in post-spawn mode. Dams are always good. Castle Rock, Beatonwell, um, all good places to check out. The Mississippi River, I haven't talked to a lot of people heading over there now that all the kind of the spawning is done. The folks hitting the barges say it's been kind of slow, although you do pick up, random pike and bass, white bass, stuff like that. Over to Milwaukee, the coho run out on the big lake is still good, and it's been moving up. I've heard about fish out from Milwaukee, Port Washington. I heard actually some people not doing well up in Sheboygan, but they're going to be moving up there soon. So otherwise, the steelhead run is over in the rivers. It's always sad to see that come to an end, but the good news is the Milwaukee Rivers has great smallmouth fishing and good pike action in there too. So that's how that'll be all summer. So go over and check that out. I guess that pretty much does it for the lake fishing. Trout fishing around the area has been great. The creeks are generally running low and clear. With the weeds, heat, and bugs coming, this is the best time to be out. A lot of good hatches coming off if you like dry fly fishing. Otherwise, if you're using a spinning rod, jerk baits like a husky jerk or a countdown work great. Crappie sized tube jigs run through deeper runs. Panther martins are hard to beat. On the live bait side of things, you can use chubs. You can use chub tails or minnows or something like that. It's really hard to beat a redworm just under a bobber drifted through runs and pools and stuff like that. Otherwise, like I said, on the fly side of things, we'll get into our happy fly day discussion here. But on the nymph side of things, mayflies, caddis are all hatching. So you get your little caddis nymphs, beadhead pheasant tails on the mayfly side of things. Hare's ear is hard to beat. Hare's ear nymph. I always like mine on beads, and they're just a great kind of catch-all. Scuds are like 80% of a fish's diet, trout's diet, so those are always effective. And of course, woolly buggers are hard to beat. Pink squirrels, that action's going to slow down a little bit. You can fish them year-round and catch fish. Mostly a spring and fall fly, though. Otherwise, on the dry fly side of things, like I said, a lot of caddis coming off, mayflies coming off, and make sure you have some blue-winged olives and some caddis in your box. So traditional elk hair caddises are good. Traditional olives are great. Both these flies do run a little bit darker right now, so maybe a little bit more on the light or dark tan brown side of things for the caddis. Darker slate kind of gray for the olives, but and these sparkle caddises a sparkle dun is a great fly. It's a mayfly imitation, but it also has a lot of caddis-like properties. So swing in the shop, get some of those if you don't have them in your box, and do get out there and take advantage of the trout fishing because, like I said, we got maybe a month before it's going to get too hot and buggy and weedy to really be very comfortable out there. So anyway, good luck to all the folks in the Casting for Kids event this weekend. Good luck to everybody that makes it out. Do post your catches and questions below or comments. We're happy to try to answer those. Do call the shop at 241-4225 if you want us to expand on anything. Otherwise, yeah, good luck out there. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week. Take care.